Let's talk about Dungeon Keeper. We can't just switch over and start talking about good games all of a sudden.
Talking about bad games, and a game, one of which I kind of like.
Yeah, but basically the sad thing is that probably what this means is that either A, Capcom will desperately try to, you know, keep reinventing Devil May Cry again over and over and over, or they will simply let the franchise die, like they have done with many other franchises when a hastily scrabbled together sequel didn't sell as well as the original.
Yeah,
we've seen it happen before.
Yeah.
Now, don't even get me started on the state of modern so-called games journalism, because as a real journalist that has worked as a game critic, I will not touch North American games journalism with a tongue. Seriously, I just stay out of that shit because it makes me angry. It literally makes me angry.
This has been discussed in previous streams.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on Kotaku, Arthur?
Kotaku is the best source for otaku and gaming news on the interwebs.
Why are you opening the can of worms? Why?
Let me show you this editorial about the time that I lost my virginity on my Sonic bed. Fuck you. To quote Devil May Cry.
Sorry.
God. But seriously, the worst thing is that recently one of the guys that is an editor at Kotaku had this tweet where he basically was all exasperate and there is simply no demand for professionalism and quality anymore. And you're like, you're an editor of Kotaku. You have articles about PVC figurines without clothes and haha, isn't it silly how girls wear little clothes in video games, and by the way, the new Dead Space 3 will be the best game ever. You are a shit site that survive only because the people that view your pages are about on the same level intellectually as you. I know that is not a compliment to either you or your viewership. I'll let you figure out the rest, though it will probably take you a few minutes. In fact, I think that the game just pretty much explained what I think you are. It was in that text box that popped up. It began with a T and ended with a D. So yeah, let's abandon that.
I don't like Kotaku either. Shoot.
Now he has to defend himself. Why did he bring that up?
Yeah, I don't like it either, guys.
I totally don't like that.
I warned you. I warned you about the can, but no, you still had to open it.
He said that after I mentioned it.
The thing about me, though, is that if you open a can of worms, which to me it's not so much a can of worms as it's a can of really angry, venomous snakes. They just jump up there and attach to your face and go, no. No. But yeah, on the other hand, I'm also very glad to drop things once you back off, so it should be fine. And yeah, that was basically how it worked. Hey guys, I'm Dotai. I want to join your stream sometimes. And oh, by the way, what do you guys think about things you hate?
No.
Let me tell you about my feelings about Kotaku. I have been using that expression way too much. Let me tell you about, but that's because it just instantly renders everything hilarious, and it also basically tells everyone that we're not going to talk about it anymore.
Yes.
I am really sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about Homestuck.
Overflight.
Actually, let me tell you about Homestuck. I have not read a single strip of Homestuck. I have no idea what Homestuck is about, except from what I've been able to extrapolate from what all the crazy fans are talking about. So I think it's basically about these people, see, that are stuck at home, and they're bored as hell, so they make shit up and they draw it in MS Paint.
There are trolls.
Yeah, there are trolls
Yeah.
too, and they have like orange horns and things, and they talk in lead speak, maybe.
No, that's only one of them, if
Oh.
I remember correctly. I barely know it
Yeah, and
myself.
I now know like literally 200% more about Homestuck than I did 20 seconds ago. There you go, educational stream.
Yeah, no. I only know what I know because a friend had a huge Homestuck kick some time ago. But,
Buckle up, Homestuck.
I've never met a big Homestuck fan, so I've thankfully kind of avoided all of that stuff. I do know one brony, but he's not super obsessed with it.
well, you know two.
He is lagom brony. That's the Swedish taste. Is.
I'm one of those people who ain't afraid to admit it, but I'm also not the crazy psychotypes.
Okay.
He only has one Dakimakura. So, you know.
No!
No, I totally have 3! Right, anyway. Let me tell you about Dakimakura and why I'm really pissed off about that whole thing. Because they made body pillows creepy. And seriously, body pillows are the comfiest fucking thing, especially if you're tall. You have no idea how comfy a good body pillow is. Oh. I mean, I don't want anime girls on mine, though. I mean, that would just be creepy and make it really difficult to sleep.
Well,
Because-
yeah.
These
You
just, you know,
prefer a
large, empty,
plain-
staring, soulless eyes.
You
Never
prefer a
close.
plain white one.
Yeah.
That's a pillow, nothing
Yeah,
more.
exactly. I am after the pillow part.
Yeah. My sister had one.
My father had a body pillow, but it was just covered in images of Coke bottles.
Oh. There you
Hey,
go.
there's nothing wrong with Coke bottles.
I was gonna say, that's tasteful.
Is a Coca-Cola print body pillow really tasteful? I wouldn't go quite that far,
It's
but
better than a half-naked anime girl.
that is true.
It's
That
like
is true.
5 years old.
It is true.
That is
that's
the
true.
only
Yes.
argument I'm giving.
Yeah. There we go, another maxed out level 2. Great. What I am sort of I do have to say that I was really impressed by this big thread on 2chan, the originator of the image board culture based on the Japanese version of 4chan.
Yeah.
They had this amazing thread where there was a guy who basically said that he had revolutionized Dakimakura, and he had this most amazing just layout of his work procedure. What he's done is that he's cut the cover itself in half, then he has a cover underneath. So on the cover underneath, the anime girl is naked, and then on the halves that he can remove, he has gone for a clothed variant, but he has actually sewn exact copies of the clothes onto the pillowcase. So, as he says, you can actually touch the clothing, feel the ruffles and creases, and then gently sneak your hand in underneath her top and slowly undress her as you go to bed. And I was just floored by this, because, I mean, it must have taken hundreds of man-hours and equipment for, you know, $1,000 at least just to get a single one of those done. And just
That is
such amazing dedication that I can't even be disgusted.
something.
Yeah, I can't even be disgusted with him, because I'm just so impressed by his dedication to this shit.
And
He
apparently
loves
you
his
have
anime
caused
girl.
Alistair to need a shower now.
That's great. He probably needs one.
But, like, it still creeps me out a little bit, but yeah, it's just, he was so dedicated to this idea.
Yeah, and I mean, at the point where they are not actually at all mentally aware that something is wrong, then you sort of realize, I mean, it's still creepy, but you can't really hate the guy.
So,
Yeah.
to
He's just,
Change the subject.
he's just incredibly confused.
What shall
Anyway,
we say?
Dotai.
Yeah, what shall we say? Change the subject
I
to
set
Dotai.
aside a few books to read if we run out of things to talk about.
Nice.
I can just read them out loud.
Fantastic.
What books do we have to choose from?
Okay, I have a biography of General Nathan Bedford Forrest.
Oh, there we go.
Alright.
That's quite interesting for us Europeans who weren't around.
Do you want me to read this?
Oh, please go through the list first.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Might be
What do we
something.
have first
Might be something
finishes?
even better.
I also have a collection of the first 3 of Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter books.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, that's it right now. I could go find some more. You want me to?
No, I think that should be actually
Yeah,
more
it should
than
be good.
enough.
I
I
mean-
was about to say. See if you can find some choice paragraphs from the Good General's book, because it is one thing I've learned from the memoirs and biographies and so on from famous military types is that they are usually insane in the best way.
Oh, Nathan Bedford Forrest was the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
There you go. See.
Perfect.
Something I actually did not know.
Maybe now we will finally learn why they call it the Grand Wizard. I mean,
Because magic.
I bet my ass he couldn't even cast cantrips.
No, I'm sure it's, and I'm pretty sure it's not pronounced wizard. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Weezord.
Wizord.
Yeah, something like
No,
that.
no, wait, that's from Power Rangers, isn't it? The Wizord. It's the existentially confused robot, the Wizord. Why? Wizord. Sorry.
Alright, I will be back in probably about 20 minutes or so. I really need to
We'll
get
be
some...
here.
We'll be here, alright. I just really need to go get something to eat.
Go for it.
Alright.
So you know what? Let's actually do anything different. I'm sorry if I immediately cut you off there, Dota, but let's just do something different. Let's drag a sled instead. Now, please, do go ahead. Tell us all about the Good General.
Alright, so this biography was written by John Allen Wyatt, who I think he did some interesting stuff of his own, although can't really say it off the top of my head, but alright, here's the preface. For the last 2 years of the Civil War, I was a private soldier in a regiment of Alabama cavalry, which had formerly served under Forrest. 4 companies of this regiment had formed a portion of the famous battalion which had distinguished itself in the engagement at Fort Donelson, and, refusing to surrender, had marched out with him through the gap in General Grant's lines. Although I was at no time directly under General Forrest, I was impressed by the enthusiastic devotion to him of these veterans who had followed his banner for the first year of the war, and who seemed never to tire in speaking of his kind treatment to them, his sympathetic nature as a man, his great personal daring, and especially of his wonderful achievements as a commander. Of these achievements, I was, at that time, not altogether ignorant. His escape from Fort Donelson, the desperate charge which saved Beauregard's army from Sherman's vigorous pursuit after Shiloh, in which he was severely wounded, the capture of Murfreesboro, with its entire garrison of infantry and artillery, with his small brigade of cavalry without cannon, the charge on and capture of Coburn's infantry at Thompson's Station, the capture of the garrison at Brentwood, and the relentless pursuit of Strait's raiders, which ended in the surrender of these gallant Union soldiers to Forrest with less than 1/2 of their number, had already attracted wide attention and had made him famous. The knowledge of these facts, together with a personal association with the men who had felt the influence of his immediate leadership, naturally interested me in his career, which I closely followed to the end of the great struggle. When the general government, with wise forethought, began to collect and to place at the disposal of its citizens the official reports and correspondence, and all the reliable literature of the war, I undertook, in the light of these and other authentic papers, a closer analysis at its military record. The further my investigations proceeded, the more I became convinced that Forrest was justly acknowledged to be one of the most famous fighters and leaders of mounted infantry or cavalry which the war produced on either side. He was more than this, and that a careful and unbiased statement of his achievements would place him in history not only as one of the most remarkable and romantic personalities of the Civil War, but as one of the ablest soldiers of the world. While I had hoped, as year after year slipped by since peace was declared, that someone abler than I would undertake the task of placing in readable shape the story of his life, I determined, if this were not done before I pass into the Seer and Yellow Leaf, to pay this tribute to his memory myself.
So far, I have to say that this is actually pretty damn interesting reading, though he spent a lot of time just telling us how swell the guy is, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He seems to lack any personal flaws at this point.
Oh god, this is a Mary Sue.
It's...
But if you decide to write a biography about someone because you adore them so much and think they're so amazing, you probably will wait with the negatives until they become incredibly relevant.
And then probably even then you would try to make light of them. Or at least give reason as to why.
Alright. It has been a work of years to gather up from every available source the matter relating to this history, his early days, his civil and private life, and the accurate facts of his military record. In 1894, I wrote a condensed sketch, had it printed in single column upon the margin of wide sheets of paper, leaving a large blank space. And these I mailed to every surviving officer or soldier of his command whose address I could obtain, and to others personally acquainted with Forrest before and after the war. All were requested to return the sheet with corrections and to add everything of interest for the accuracy of which the sender could vouch. I also caused the publication of this sketch in various newspapers of wide circulation in the section of the South from which his troops were chiefly drawn, and asked as well for private letters of information. As a result of these efforts, a great mass of material came into my possession, and an interest was aroused which encouraged me in the laborious task of sifting the reliable from the unreliable, and of making presentable to the reader the matter which was worthy of credence. To each of these long lists of persons who so promptly and generously responded to my appeal, I shall ever be grateful. I am also under great obligation to many officers and generals who serve, officers and soldiers who served immediately with General Forrest, and to a number who served in the commands of the Union forces directly opposed to him, for much of that is of interest, and that has enabled me to present a clearer history of this remarkable man than could otherwise have been obtained. It was my good fortune to become intimately acquainted with the late General Thomas Jordan, who, associated with Mr. J.B. Pryor, had immediately after the war written a book entitled The Campaigns of Lieutenant General N.B. Forrest, a great portion of the manuscript of which book had been perused by Forrest, who had personally made important corrections and valuable suggestions. General Jordan had for a considerable period after the war been intimately associated with Forrest, and from him I received much that was of service to me in the work I had in hand. Naturally, the volume he had written so soon after hostilities had ceased was pervaded by a bias or prejudice for the Southern side of the struggle, which detracted from its value as a historical document. And many of the statements it contained I found were not accurate when tested by the official reports which came out later, and to which General Jordan and his associate could not have had access. I have endeavored to exclude from these pages everything bearing upon the civil or military life of Forrest that cannot be substantiated. In the reports of battles and campaigns, when any material differences of opposing commanders were evident, I have analyzed the reports in the effort to arrive at a fair and unbiased conclusion, making every allowance for the natural prejudice of the human mind under the influence of the excitement incident to war. It has been suggested that certain portions of the book, which bear testimony to Forrest's harshness and violent temper, should not be made public, as it might detract from his reputation as a man. But it has been my endeavor to paint him exactly as he lived, so that posterity may form its own opinion of him from the evidence. To my mind, it would be as inexcusable to hide any of his shortcomings as it would be to permit the assailants of his reputation to go unchallenged. He had his weaknesses, and was not an angel by any means, but he was very far from being a man who did not have a high sense of right and justice. Personally, nothing would please me more to have left out of the book everything which could possibly awaken an unpleasant memory or cause the slightest irritation, but simple justice, of course, requires a recitation of some of these unhappy incidents. Happily for all, the bitterness engendered by that fratricidal struggle had passed away, and, well, Forrest, took the southern side and fought to the last with desperate energy and an intensity of purpose unsurpassed, his history and his fame are part of the glory of our common country. No spirit more loyal to its convictions ever animated a mortal frame than that which dominated his all-too-brief existence. When his blood-red sword was sheathed at last, he took on the modes of peace as earnestly and consistently as he had carried on the direful methods of war. From the day that his battle flag was furled to the day of his death, he labored for more than a political rehabilitation of the nation. He wished at a union heart-to-heart between the South and the North. This was the burden of his eloquent and pathetic addresses to the veterans of his command at the annual reunions. And when the hand of the great destroyer was laid upon him, in his last will he bequeathed his sword to his son with the expressed wish that, should occasion offer, he, as his father would have done, would use it under the stars and stripes with the same devotion and earnestness that it had been wielded for the Southern Confederacy. John A. Wyatt.
A pretty sizable, but actually pretty excellent forward, I have to say.
I need to get a drink. I'll be back very soon.
I was about to say, you should really set yourself up with a glass of water or so if you're going to continue doing this.
I always have one readily available. But, no, as I was saying in chat, guys, we're very close to getting that 5. We have the 2s to make the second 3, train that up. That'll then breed with the other max 3, which will get us the second 4.
I'll be back in a sec.
We need one more 3 because we need to make sure it's a demon horse and not a Pegasus, because if we breed it with the Pegasus, there's a chance we'll get the Pegasus, and then all this work will be for nothing.
For nay. I mean, not.
For not, yes. Only one demon horse. We do have
only one demon 4.
Do have Pegasus 4, but they're the workhorse, and they're done. They do nothing but get us money.
Right. So once Blondine here is trained up, we will combine them to form another 4. Then that 4 will be trained, and once that 4 is trained, we can breed ourselves the next 5. So we are closer than we ever have been. Fuck, if you never watch these streams again, I don't even care. And yes, the foals all look like completely ordinary horses, interestingly enough. And then they suddenly just go poof, and then they are the sort of horse they're supposed to be. It is confusing and terrifying. But let me tell you this, that this procedure that we are going through here, the first time we did it, it took almost 9 hours total. And this time we are looking at less than 4 hours at this pace.
Now, have you basically upgraded your ranch or whatever this is considered?
This magical farm, yes. The magical farm is indeed perfectly set up.
It's pretty much maxed out.
Yep, it is maxed out to the max. And wow, it seems that Blondine is really smart, which means that hopefully she will be easy to train.
92.
Right.
So
let's send everyone off to do shit, because it's not like they have anything else to do.
Yeah, because Blonde is the only one that actually
requires training, yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, we have a trick for that.
The magic brush?
Indeed, the magic brush. Because here's the thing, everyone, that what we are going to have to do is make sure that her condition and spirit keeps high enough that we can just continuously train her.
Yes, they do make money down this.
Yes, they do a lot of money. Let's make some crazy money. Right, anyway. You can upgrade your brush to basically replenish spirit and condition a lot faster. And when I say a lot faster, I mean just the basic upgrade makes it completely ridiculous. It makes neither meter even matter anymore. So that is what we are going to aim to do once we pop back into the stables.
So do you only have the first upgrade for the brush?
Yeah, the thing is, every time you sell a horse, the box empties of all items. And you are not apparently, you know, reimbursed for what you've spent on them. So you can pay several thousand gold to get really nice tools to groom your horse, and then when the horse leaves, the tools just spontaneously combust.
I thought you were using the same tools.
No.
Alright, so, Chapter 1. The Ancestry and Earlier Life of NB Forest. Now and then...
He used to be a tree. With a heart of oak. Sorry.
Slowing it down. This